Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Tessie and today we'll be learning how to make a jumpsuit. I'm going to make this video as easy as possible. Please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Thank you. So I have 3 yards of fabric and I also have my measurements, I have my rulers and my scissors. So the first thing I'll be doing is working on the down part of the jumpsuit. So I'll be starting with the trouser. So now to know the amount of fabric you need to fold is your round lap measurement divided by 2 inches. And you add like 2 to 3 inches allowance to it. So I'll go ahead now to fold my fabric. So after folding my fabric, as you can see, I folded it into two. This is what I have. So I'll go ahead now to chalk out my starting point. So this starting point now will serve as my waistline. So from that point, that's from the waistline, I'll chalk out my hip line. So after doing that, I went ahead to connect it to a straight line. So after the hip measurement, the next measurement to take is my crotch. To get my crotch is going to be my hip measurement divided by 4 inches plus 1 inches. But this is a jumpsuit, so please add extra 1 inches to your crotch line because you don't want it tight at that flap area. So now I added extra 1 inches to it again. So now I'm just going to chalk my crotch measurement plus extra 1 inches. So I'll go ahead now to connect this line. So now, after doing that, the next measurement I'm taking is my knee measurement. So I placed the tape on the waistline and I chalked my knee. My knee line is 21 inches. So I made a mark on that 21 inches and I connected it into a straight line. So what I'll be doing next is taking the length of the pants. So before getting the length of the pants, you take out your half length. My half length is 17 inches. So I place the tape on that 17 inches on the waistline. So after placing my tape on that 17 inches, I'll take the length of the jumpsuit. So the length of my jumpsuit is 63 inches. I'll be adding 2 inches sewing allowance. So what I'll just do is make do with what I have. So as you can see now, I have my waistline, my hip line, my crotch line, my knee line, and the length of the trouser. So what I'll be doing is working on the hip area. I'll divide my hip measurement by 4 and I'll add 1 inch to it. So my hip divided by 4 will give me 11. 11 plus 1 will give me 12. So I'll go ahead now to chalk out 12 inches on the hip area. And I'll connect that point straight up to the waistline. Connect it straight up to the waistline. Now on the crotch line, I'll be placing my round lap measurement divided by 2 plus 1 inches. So my round lap is 30 divided by 2 will give me 15 and I'll be adding 1 inch to it. So I'm chalking 16 inches on that crotch line. So after doing that, I'll connect from the crotch line to the hip line using my curve ruler. So after connecting the points together, this is what I have. So now this is a very free palazzo pant. So what I will do is from that crotch line, I'm just going to connect it straight down to the length of the pants. So after doing that, this is what I have. So now I'll be working on the waist area. So on that starting point, I'm going to take my waist measurement divided by 4 inches and add 1 inches sewing allowance. So now what I'll be doing is my waist measurement divided by 4. I'm going to chalk it down and add 1 inches sewing allowance to it. So after doing that, I'm just going to connect that point straight down to the hip area. So now I'm using my curve ruler to do that. So after connecting, this is what I have, as you can see. So what I'll be doing now is coming down by 1 inches on the waist area. So I went down by 1 inches and I'm just going to connect from this point to the 1 inches. So after doing that, this is what it looks like. I am not adding that to my pant trouser. I don't want that, so I'm not adding. So I'm just going to cut it out. So now we are done with the front area. We'll be cutting out the back. So for the back, as you can see, I folded my fabric into two and I placed my front on the back. I had to pin it because this fabric is a bit hard to work with. So what we'll be doing now is taking our allowance. So all my allowance will be on this side of the fabric. So on the waist area, I'll be taking 2 inches sewing allowance. On the hip, also 2 inches. On the crotch, I'll be using 2.5 inches. You can use 2 inches, 2.5, 3 inches. It depends on how big the person is. On the knee, I'll be using 2 inches, and on the length, also 2 inches. So now go ahead now to place my allowance. 2 inches as well. On the crotch, I'm using 2.5 inches. On the knee, I'm using 2 inches, and on the length, 2 inches. So I'll go ahead now to connect these lines together. Initially, while we were cutting the front pattern, we came down by 1 inches. So now for the back pattern, I'll go up by 1.5 inches. You can go up by 1.5 or 2 inches, and you connect the lines together. After connecting the lines together, from that point, I'm just going to connect it straight down to the front waistline. So now we are done with the back pattern. I'll go ahead now to cut out my fabric. So guys, after cutting, this is what we have for the down part of the jumpsuit. What I'll be doing now is working on the front part. As you can see, I folded my fabric into two. So to know the amount of fabric to fold, it's going to be your bust measurement divided by 4 inches plus 2 or 3 inches sewing allowance. So that's what I did there. So what I'll be doing now is chalking out my starting point. So from that point, I'll be taking my shoulder measurement divided by 2. My shoulder measurement divided by 2 will give me 9 inches. So from that point, I'll chalk out my armhole line. So my armhole line is 9 inches and I'm going to connect the lines together. So what I'll be doing next is from the shoulder line, I'll be taking my bust point line. So my bust point line is 11 inches. So I'll chalk 11 inches and make a straight line. So what I'll be doing next is from the shoulder line, I'll take my half length. My half length is 17 inches. I added 1 inch for sewing allowance, which gave me 18 inches. So on the starting point, I'll be taking my neck measurement. So the neck width is 3 inches and the neck depth is 3.5 inches. So I'm just going to connect the lines together. What I'll be doing next is coming down by 1 inches for my shoulder slope. So I came down by 1 inches and connected it to the shoulder line. Just like this. So now check what I have. I have 8 inches divided by 2 will give me 4. So I'm just going to chalk 4 inches on that armhole point and I'll be coming in by half an inch on that point. So what I'll do now is just curve out my armhole. So I went ahead to just curve it out. So what I'll be doing next is on the chest line area, I'm going to place my bust measurement divided by 4 inches. So my bust is 40 divided by 4 is 10 plus 2 inches sewing allowance. So what I'll be doing next is on the waistline, go ahead to place your waist measurement divided by 4. I'm not adding that to this, so I'll just place my waist measurement divided by 4 and I'm going to be adding 2 inches sewing allowance. So I'll go ahead now to connect my lines together. So we're done with the front pattern. As you can see, I'll go ahead to cut out the fabric. So I'll cut the neckline, and on that shoulder line, I won't be cutting directly on the shoulder slope. I'll go up by half an inch for my joining allowance. So now for the back pattern, I folded my fabric into two and I chalked out 2 inches for my zip allowance and connected it straight down. So I'll place my front pattern on the back after the zip allowance, and I'll be coming in by 3 inches for my neck width and the neck depth 2 inches, as you can see. So I'll go ahead now to curve it straight to the zip allowance. So after doing that, I'll just go ahead now to cut out my fabric. So now I'll take the front pattern out. You know, this jumpsuit, the zip is going to be at the back, and I don't want my zip bulging at the back. So I'll come in by 1 inches on that zip area, and I'm just going to make a slant straight up to the zip line. Just watch what I'm doing. Just connect it straight up. So as you can see, I have a slant on that zip area. So I'll go ahead now to cut out the back pattern. So guys, we are done with the back pattern. As you can see, I have 2 pieces for it. Now you need to note that there are different ways to join a jumpsuit. So the method I'm going to be using is joining the trouser part first, then attaching the upper part of the bodice to the trouser. So now to join my trouser, what I will be doing is I'll be taking one side of the front and one side of the back. So I'll just place them together just like this, and I'll be stitching half an inch straight down to the trouser length. I'll also do the same thing for these other parts. As you can see, I have one side of the back, also one side of the front. I place them together and I'll be stitching half an inch straight down to the trouser length. So after doing that, this is what I have, as you can see. So I'm just going to place them together. Go ahead to place them together this way. So after placing them together, on the front part of the trouser, I'm just going to stitch from the waist straight down to the crotch line by half an inch. So after stitching that part, as you can see, I flipped it to the other part just like this. And now I'll be taking my measurement. So on that part, my waist measurement divided by 2, I'm just going to chalk it down there. And from that waist line, I'm just going to come down to my hip line. So I came down to the hip line, and on that line, I'll be taking my hip measurement divided by 2. So I placed my tape, I took my hip measurement divided by 2. So this is what I have. So now what I'll be doing next is stitching. So from that waistline, I'm going to stitch to the hip and then half an inch straight down to the crotch. So to make it very easy for us, I'm just going to chalk where I will be stitching. So go ahead to chalk where you will stitch. From that hip line, just go half an inch straight down to the crotch line. So after stitching, this is what I have, as you can see. So what I'll be doing now is just confirming if my measurements are accurate. So I placed my tape and checked the waistline is accurate. On the hip line, I'm also going to check if it is accurate. It is accurate. So I am good to go. So what I'll be doing now is I'm just going to open up my fabric this way and place the both crotch area together. As you can see, they are together. Make sure they are in the same line. Then stitch half an inch straight down to the trouser length. Also do the same thing on this other part. So after doing that, this is what I have, as you can see. So what I'll be doing next is ironing. So I'm just going to open it up this way and iron it perfectly. So go ahead to iron. So now I'll be working on the front area. So what I'll be doing now is I'm going to be using my bias to pipe the neck. So you can use your bias, or you can just cut some fabric and use this to just turn it over. So I'm just going to be using this and also use it for the back area. So after doing that, this is what I have. As you can see, I also went ahead to join the zip area, but I did not double stitch because I'll be losing it later. So now I'm just going to place my front on the back pattern, and I'm going to be stitching the neckline by half an inch. I'm so sorry, guys. I've gone ahead to draft out my sleeve because the tutorial was too long. So for the sleeve, after drafting your sleeve, you can go ahead now to fold the end part of the sleeve. So I went ahead to fold it in and just stitch. I'll do the same thing for the other parts. And after doing that, I've stitched the shoulder area and I folded my sleeve into two and notched the middle part of the sleeve. I'm just going to open up my fabric this way and place my sleeve on that armhole area, and I'm going to stitch till I get to the end of the armhole and do the same thing for the other part as well. So after doing all of that, this is what I have. So I've gone ahead to pin it down, and what I'll be doing next is just taking my measurement and I will stitch. So after stitching, this is what I have. So I just went ahead to turn it to the right side and I'll open up the zip area. So after doing that, what I'll be doing next is I'll be opening up the back part of the trouser as well. You know, we are attaching a zip at the back area. So go ahead now to open up your back part of the trouser. You open it up to where you want the zip to end. So after doing that, you're just going to double stitch on that area. Now, before joining them together, what I'll be doing is I'll be checking what I have on the waistline on that trouser part. Go ahead now to check what you have. So I place my tape on this point and I'm just going to check what I have round the waist. So as you can see, I have 37 inches. So I'll also check what I have on the top part. So I placed my tape just like this and I'm going to check what I have around the waist area. So as you can see, I also have 37 inches, so I am good to go. So now I'm just going to place them together. So please, when you are placing, make sure that the top part and the down part seam rhymes, as you can see mine, or you can also go ahead to pin them down. As a beginner, just go ahead to pin them down for a perfect work. Then you stitch half an inch. After stitching round it, this is what I have, as you can see. So the zip area, I have double stitched that point and I'm just going to be placing my zip. So I'm using an invisible zip for this. So I'll go and stitch my zip to the fabric and I will iron and show you guys what it looks like. So guys, this is what the jumpsuit looks like. Mind you, this jumpsuit is not my size. I just wore it to show you guys what it looks like. So this is just a simple jumpsuit. And let me just say, this is our jumpsuit 101. We have different types of jumpsuits. I'll be teaching us different types of jumpsuits. So hope this tutorial was easy. Please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Bye.